Yeah, my name is Peter Hill and I'm a postdoctoral fellow here at UC.
So my name is Maddie Knight and I am the field officer for a wildlife genetics lab here on campus.
So my name is Mariam and I am a lecturer and the program director of engineering at School of ITS.
Yes, so my name's Hilary Coleman and I'm an education-focused academic here in the University of Canberra.
From high school, so it was a chemistry project.
And that was my first introduction to science and I won't forget it.
The thing that I remember very vividly is that I was very young, maybe 8 or 9, and we did this very simple project.
And I was really lucky to have some amazing school teachers in science.
A science project I remember from high school. It was a chemistry project and I was making acid-base indicators out of flower petals. So I took flower petals from different plants and ground them up with some alcohol, and then I used some acids and bases in some test tubes, and I dripped in my, my alcohol solution to see whether or not it would change colour in the acid or base. And I remember that hydrangea flowers worked really well in that regard. Gave different colours depending on whether they were in an acid or a base solution.
So the science class that I remember the most is probably my first ever high school science class, where as a safety demonstration, my science teacher walked in and set the entire bench on fire. He then showed us exactly what we needed to be doing for class to make sure that that didn't happen for us, and the safety measures that we had to go through to make sure that yeah, everything that we were doing was okay.
I remember doing, I guess, a lot of experimentation and just really enjoying doing the experiments in the lab, sort of things that you wouldn't have a chance to do outside because you're finally handling chemicals that require a bit more expertise or knowledge or safe handling and things like that. I remember kind of finding that stuff really fascinating. Not necessarily a particular experiment that kind of I can trace back all of my interest to, but I think being able to perform those experiments and use them to predict the way the world works on this tiny atomic level, which we can't actually see with the naked eye, but now can explain, that was really powerful to me. I think getting a chance to actually see those things in person was pretty amazing. Yep.
The thing that I remember very vividly is that I was very young, maybe 8 or 9, and we did this very simple project that was just a battery, 2 wires, a holder and a light. And I remember when I was 8 when we did that, it was so fascinating to me that just with the use of one battery, I could turn on that light. And then later, I added a second light. So I remember I added them, at that time I had no idea that this is the concept of series and parallel. So I added them in series and the lights went dim. And then after that, someone my teacher told me if you connect them in parallel, then the light will be the same. So even then I was fascinated by this whole idea of engineering.
I guess the links between those early science projects and what I'm doing today is that I developed a love of science. All through high school and then college, I did science subjects because I just found it really interesting to be able to discover things about plants and animals around me. And that led initially to qualifications in chemistry. Then that led to a job at a genetics facility, which again reignited my passion for science. I came back to uni, did my undergrad, honours, PhD, and yeah, now I work in genetics.
So that first class and that bench fire really made me sit up and listen and take note of what was happening in science, which beforehand I had thought of as sort of a more dull and boring subject, but it's actually quite exciting and there's a lot of movement, there's a lot of dynamic and ever-changing things to all parts of science, which links to what I do now, where I don't have any 2 days that are exactly the same. Sometimes I'm out in the field in Northern Australia, sometimes I'm here in the lab looking at my samples, extracting DNA and being able to really help conservation.
I always loved mathematics. There was something about mathematics, and when I saw that mathematics and physics can be connected, similar to that little project that I did when I was 8, that was very interesting to me. And I was always good at mathematics. And then when I got to high school, I realized that you being good at mathematics and actually using that is really enjoyable. That was the reason that I knew from beginning, from when I was 15, 16, that I wanted to do engineering.
But yeah, then I just remember having some really incredible science teachers at school, at high school, and I think it's accurate. I've been a high school teacher now, so I think it is accurate to say that obviously, your teacher shouldn't matter, but I think they are pretty responsible for sparking enthusiasm and excitement in their students. And I was really lucky to have some amazing school teachers in science, particularly my high school chemistry teacher, who I'm still in touch with and hang out with today sometimes. So yeah, I think those are the things that really sparked my interest.